The occult, very broadly, is about hidden beliefs, knowledge, and practices that fall outside the scope of organized religion and science. In keeping with that broad theme, occult horror movies can range from covering demons and paganism through to witches, the devil, and Satanists. Now then, if you dare, join me in this dark and secretive world as we exorcise some demons and rank my top 13 occult horror movies. Starting off the list at number 13, we have The Conjuring from 2013. Paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren work to help a family terrorized by a dark and powerful entity. Launching a franchise continued to this day, this original film still stands out for reinventing what I like to call the popcorn horror genre. That very widely reaching kind of horror that every kind of movie watcher goes to see. Now, while the other movies in this franchise unfortunately leaned into the laziest and cheapest form of horror, this original nicely blends that vintage feeling of horror a la the Amityville Horror, alongside a perfect use of jump scares. From an occult perspective, we start off with a bit of a smorgasbord. There's a Satan-worshipping witch whose dead spirit haunts and eventually possesses a member of the family, leading to one epic exorcism sequence. It honestly feels like James Wan ripped every page out of the occult playbook, threw it in a blender, and just let things loose. I have always found, though, this to be the best and most standout of the franchise, earning it its place on this list. But because of its decision to throw every occult idea, as I said, at the wall to see what sticks, it loses points for its over-the-top and slightly cliche story direction. For a rating, though, I would give it 4 out of 5 stars. At 12, we have Sinister from 2012. A true crime writer and his family move into a new house. The thing is, the last family that lived in that house were murdered. When snuff films are discovered in the attic documenting the tragedy, unsettling events begin to unfold. A movie reported to be the scariest ever made. I wouldn't go that hyperbolic myself. I will praise it though for its intense sequences, unique story, and the always great Ethan Hawke. For the occult, it's a mixed bag. I like how the imagery is slowly teased out and eventually we get the reveal of the villain being this pagan god known as the Eater of Children. Where the mixed response comes in, though, is most of this is revealed to us through an exposition dump. Late to the party on this one, and knowing where the story was roughly going, I was still amazed at how many scares got me and how drawn into the story I was. I won't call it the scariest movie ever made, but I will give it 4 out of 5 stars. At number 11, we have Late Night with the Devil from 2023. A live broadcast from a late night talk show in 1977 is uncovered for the first time in decades. The subject of that night's broadcast? An interview with the devil. An independent production, this film incredibly blends found footage, late night broadcast TV shooting, and surreal sequences for a unique and standout film experience of the 2020s. David Dastmalchian also takes a step outside of typecasting with a leading man performance showing that he has the chops. With its central idea being an interview with the devil, or more specifically a demon possessing a teenage girl, this film once more offers a unique take on the possession subgenre of the occult. For one, exorcising the demon is never a topic of conversation. And secondly, the demon and the girl seem to have an almost symbiotic relationship, with both being in control at different points. The second newest film on this list, I was so happy to have gotten the chance to see it in theaters. It was such a fresh idea that I thought they executed incredibly. The final act, I will say, jumps the shark a bit, but it still earned for me 4 out of 5 stars. At number 10, we have Hereditary from 2018. When the matriarch of a family dies, Annie and her family uncover disturbing secrets about their heritage and what it means for their future. Critically adored upon release, this film stood out for penetrating the culture. Namely, how outraged so many were that Toni Collette's incredible performance wasn't even nominated at that year's Oscars. As well, the film became the premier example of the self-righteous termed elevated horror. A phrase honestly created so people who look down on horror didn't have to degrade themselves for enjoying a horror movie. Cowardly bullshit, if you ask me. Blending the ideas of a coven with pagan gods and possession, Hereditary blends remarkably well many different occult themes, creating a great entry into the subgenre. I've talked about Hereditary before in an earlier video, and as I said then, I am amazed how even walking into the movie spoiled, I am still just blown away by how much it hit me. This alone gives merits to my rating of 4 to 5 stars and making it reach my top 10. Number 9, we have Suspiria from 1977. On a stormy night, a young American woman arrives to a prestigious German ballet academy. Upon her arrival, strange murders begin to occur. Standing out on this list, Suspiria visually is the most striking of all the films. Shot in highly stylized Technicolor, this is the most colorful film on the list. And how it uses color is incredible. Nighttime is bathed in blues and purples, while blood pops out in garish reds and pinks. Adding to that, a soundtrack that is amazing and no question one of Goblin and Argento's best collaborations. For the occult, Suspiria is also unique on this list. While on the surface the elements of witchcraft and covens are apparent, Argento's storytelling in this film is so erratic that it's hard to even give it a definitive plot or thematic structure. An overall fan of Argento and Italian horror, this film happily gets 4 out of 5 stars from me. Number 8, we have Prince of Darkness from 1987. A priest, a professor, and a group of graduate students uncover a hidden canister deep in the catacombs of an abandoned church. The liquid contained within could mean the end of humanity. His return to directing horror following a 4-year absence from the genre, John Carpenter delivered one of his most thematically intriguing films, led by the always standout Donald Pleasence in one of his more subtly rich roles. Blending quantum physics and theology, Carpenter delivered a very unique occult film. We see many familiar elements such as the devil and demonic possession, but done and explained in a scientific manner. The purported father of the devil is even theorized to be a being of antimatter, once more blending very complex ideas. A great film that grows on me with every watch. It also earns 4 out of 5 stars from me. Number 7, we have Longlegs from 2024. A gifted young FBI agent is brought on the case of an elusive serial killer. To her horror, not only do things seem to be connected to the occult, but to her own personal history. Breaking the trailer and marketing curse that has plagued movies for decades, nobody knew what to expect with Longlegs. Early reviews called it the scariest movie ever made, but nobody really knew what it was about. When watching it, one thing I don't see often talked about is its sound design. It had this ear-piercing hum that was honestly for me disorienting and just added to that horror experience. Its use of the occult offered fresh takes on many areas, including the way it incorporated Satan worship, possession, and ritualistic sacrifice. Also, its use of Faustian themes offered a modern take on that story not often seen. Seeing it blind, it stood out to me for the way it blended 90s crime thrillers a la Silence of the Lambs while offering many twists that kept me guessing. Micah Monroe and Nicolas Cage bring memorable performances, helping earn this movie a nearly flawless 4.5 out of 5 stars. Number 6, we have The Autopsy of Jane Doe from 2016. A father and son team of coroners are tasked with determining the cause of death for a mysterious, unidentified corpse. As their autopsy progresses, secrets are revealed much more terrifying than they ever could have expected. Standout is the portrayal of our Jane Doe by actress Owen Kelly. First off, what a daring and brave performance to take as a deceased and naked woman for nearly 90 minutes. Adding to that, it's quite impressive because you have to remain completely still, silent, with even a single breath breaking the film's immersion. For cult content, by including it on this list, I am giving a twist away. So spoilers if you want nothing more shared. With that said, yes, our Jane Doe is slowly revealed to be in effect a witch, immortal in one sense, but also appearing dead at the same time. This take is fresh, unique, and made for one hell of a slow burn reveal. An incredible film that I kick myself for not seeking out sooner. The Autopsy of Jane Doe gets 5 out of 5 stars from me and marks the point in this list where everything is perfection. We're just picking favorites at this point. At 5, we have Evil Dead from 2013. Mia is a recovering drug addict. In order to kick the habit once and for all, she and her friends travel to a family cabin in the middle of nowhere. As withdrawal begins to get the better of her, one of her friends accidentally unleashes an ancient evil into the cabin. Fede Alvarez's debut feature, this film put the Evil Dead franchise back on the map and in the popular conscience. By reclaiming its gritty horror roots from the original film, Alvarez took things further into blood-drenched carnage. But deeper than gore, the story and performances portraying addiction and recovery are profound and showed that this film has everything. Taking the Book of the Dead and the Deadite concept by the reins, this film ramps up the franchise occult content with depraved descriptions of demonic possession and the ways to kill a Deadite. Leaving enough to the imagination so you're not spoon-fed, Evil Dead offers a twisted modern tale of why some knowledge is kept secret for a reason, perfectly capturing occult themes, while also containing the most badass final act on this list. Blood, rain, hell yeah. Evil Dead gets 5 out of 5 stars and rounds out that top 5. At number 4, we have Rosemary's Baby from 1968. A young couple, Rosemary and Guy, move into a lofty New York City apartment. When Rosemary becomes pregnant, she soon discovers nobody can be trusted, especially her neighbors. One of the greatest horror films ever made, Rosemary Baby unfortunately brings with it the controversial baggage of its despicable director. To focus on the film though, this is one of those movies that warrants and rewards repeat viewings. The background details, conversations in plain sight that are overlooked at first, and the threads throughout showing how everything is connected and planned from the beginning. Incredible. Outside of its feminist themes, the other large thematic elements of this film revolve around the occult. We have a coven of witches and or Satan worshippers, if you prefer. A literal manifestation of the devil, if only in dream sequence. And of course, the major plot point of Rosemary's Baby being the Antichrist himself. A perfect film with the unfortunate albatross of its director. I still love this film and I'm always enraptured into its story. It gets 5 out of 5 stars from me and sits high at number 4. At number 3, we have The Exorcist from 1973. Two priests fight to save a young girl possessed by a malicious demon. Top 3, baby, and it's a big one. Honestly, I expect to be dodging grenades in the comments right now for not having it higher than number 3 on this list. One of the best horror movies ever made? Yes. One of the best movies ever made, period? Yes. A truly iconic film that helped define the 1970s and forever change horror and cinema as we know it. From its title and premise alone, you can see how deeply ingrained the occult is to this film. Demonic possession and the seeking of secret knowledge are key plot elements explored thoroughly and memorably through great performances by Linda Blair and Max von Sydow. A total game changer for horror, occult films, and movies in general, The Exorcist, without question, earns 5 out of 5 stars and comes in, yes, number 3 on this list. At number 2, we have The Exorcist 3 from 1990. A police lieutenant investigates the grisly murder of a local boy. Through his investigation, connections to an executed serial killer and an exorcism 15 years before are uncovered. Yep, you heard that right. I just ranked a sequel over the original. A sequel to The Exorcist, no less. If I wasn't dodging grenades before, I definitely will be now. And if you listen real close, I think you can hear a chunk of the internet just explode. Released 17 years after The Exorcist, this film for me stands a step above that original work. A detective mystery thriller, the narrative immediately wins me over as it's one of my favorite types of stories. More than that, I find George C. Scott and Brad Dourif's performances to be some of the best this franchise has ever offered. I also like how the occult is explored in this film in its different forms of demonic possession and manipulation, giving credence to its original title of Legion. The best of the franchise, an underrated horror masterpiece, and my second favorite occult horror of all time, I give The Exorcist 3 5 out of 5 stars. At number 1, we have The Omen from 1976. U.S. diplomat Robert Thorne secretly adopts a baby boy following the death of his son during childbirth. Unbeknownst to Robert or his wife, their new child is in fact the son of the devil. Off the bat, let me just say, I know, this is my number 1 and I don't have a physical copy release. For me, being such a physical media guy, there's no excuse. All I can say is I'll be picking one up as soon as possible. An incredible film and one of the best of the 1970s, everything played in its favor. Fantastic direction by Richard Donner, peak performances by Gregory Peck, Lee Remick, and David Warner, and finally, a compelling story that hooks you in. For the occult, I have always loved the thematic carryover from Rosemary's Baby. In that film, we see a story of the Antichrist being carried to term unknowingly to this, where it's around the childhood of a narratively very similar character. I also love how through Robert Thorne, we experience all of its facets as any rational father would discovering this horrible truth. There's outright dismissal and anger at such an accusation, troubling doubt, regretful belief, and finally, concrete confirmation that leaves Thorne with a devastating choice. Do I kill the boy I have raised since birth for what he's revealed to be? The Omen easily gets 5 out of 5 stars. Put up against some of the toughest competition of any horror subgenre, The Omen beat them all out. Without question, it is my number 1 and my favorite occult horror of all time. There we go. And thank you so much for watching. Wow, was this list stacked? I never realized until now how many occult horror are among my favorites of all time. Speaking of, what are your favorite occult horror movies of all time? Let me know in those comments down below. But let's keep it respectful. This is my list, and I know for sure nobody is going to have the exact same ranking. That's the beauty, though, of film and subjectivity. We get to share our different takes. Could you also like, share, subscribe, and until the next time, what's your favorite scary movie?